look at people and I wonder all day, who are you and you are not the one in your way. And then I think about myself and I stayed. I'm a pretty boss with almost your brain waste. I'm a freak in the sheets, but I got class. I'ma grab an ass if you want it. Best you ever had, give it to you. I'm the girl that they don't talk about, quiet with a big mouth. Listen for the doubt, then call it. Make you out for what you say to me. Look at every single date. If you got what I need, then oh, I'll take you on like a big deal. Legs you can unseal, key in ignition. Just keep me full like I had a meal once in a while. Feel alright. I know you like it, can't fight it. I might let you ride the wave. I'm New York and you're LA. Come together, feel the shock waves.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome in to the Season 7 Can-Am Draft. We've got a grid of 40 and 36 seats have been filled. We're going to find out who the last 4 drivers onto the starting full-time grid in Week 1 are. Tonight, picks are in, choices have been made, and as we get into the next half hour or so, we're going to find out exactly who will be driving for which teams as we get into the draft here. Looks like we do have ad breaks incoming at some point. I'm going to push those off as long as I can, but I don't want anyone to miss any of the action tonight. So I'm too quiet. If we do hit an ad break, or if I can't push it off long enough, just let me know in the chat, and I will kind of pause where we're at so nobody has to miss anything. But yeah, so I think I can get away with about 15, 20 minutes straight. McCoy said I was quiet. I'm going to hope that that's better. And then we'll find out. So I turned the music down, turned myself up. We'll see if that fixes the problem. If not, I can be a lot louder. He said great. All right, I'm a pretty loud person. So, alrighty, without further ado, let's get into it. We got quite a schedule tonight. We've got previews of things going on. We've got some rundown of Season 6, the changes that have made. It was kind of a groundbreaking offseason for Can-Am. We changed the way that we make up the rosters and put a lot more onus on team principals. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out as we get into the work tonight. I do have Discord pulled up. Going to try and get some guys in for interviews. If you want to hop in, if you're wanting to get interviewed, hop into F1 Lobby 1, and then if we're going to get you interviewed, I will try to pull you over into the interviews tab. No clue if it's going to work. I'm going to do my best, though, to see if we can get some interviews going, see if we can get some draftees and TPs interviewed. But, yeah, here we go. Obviously, big changes that happened. The first of which... Oh, that always helps to hit the right button. The first of which, we obviously changed to a new cost cap model here in Can-Am. So $165 million is the new cost cap for all 10 teams to follow. That's between Tier 1 and Tier 2. And for the first time ever, we actually had a free agency period. A little bit modified this season because teams did have a protection, not just wanting to throw 40 guys into free agency and say, all right, have at it. So the goal was to have some teams be able to protect a driver, which I think a lot of guys use their protection to their advantage to protect their top drivers. Somebody, I think, protected somebody who might have been considered more of a future driver for them. But either way, everyone got to protect one driver. Everybody was signed, and then names started just flying all over the place. And we'll get into that shortly here as we talk about kind of the grid rundown and where everybody ended up. But prior to that, it's always good to look at where we came from. Season 6, the recap of what happened last season, where McLaren claimed the Constructors' crown and Lucid drove his way to back-to-back World Drivers' Championships, winning over Flame by some 27 points, and actually quite a tight battle for McLaren to claim the Constructors' crown, 318 points to just 311.5 for Mercedes. Williams fell a little bit short in P3, mainly because we just really couldn't get Flame consistent driving alongside him there. If anyone's doing the math and looking and seeing that Flame had 248.5 points and Williams had 262.5 points, that's not an ideal split for a team that's in P3. So that was kind of the interesting way that Season 6 ended. But as we look towards Season 7, let's look towards who's on the grid and then who is going to be picked tonight as we get into things here. Moving to the Season 7 grid rundown, you can get a look on your screen here at exactly who is here already, who's set in stone. You get a look at all 10 teams, and you can see that in Tier 1, only one seat is going to be picked tonight. That is the first overall pick that belongs to Kick and their new team principal, Fives. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. But yeah, that'll be our first overall selection here. 19 of the 20 drivers are set, and I believe only one true Tier 1 rookie, and I think one Tier 1 full-time rookie, and that's Parks for Haas, who was a reserve last season. Just got picked up by Fief the other night. But we'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of our teams a bit later. And that brings us to Tier 2 and a look at where we're picking tonight. Williams will have the second overall selection as 17 of these 20 drivers are already set in stone. Kick will then pick a second time for the third overall selection, and our fourth pick will be Red Bull, who will fill their second seat. I think it's pronounced Genier. I'm sure somebody will tell me if I'm wrong, who's got better pronunciation skills with that than I. But those are the 4 draft picks that we're going to be having tonight. So we'll have one tier. Oh, I got it perfect. Let's go. So those are the 4 picks that we've got tonight. We're going to complete the tier 1 grid with our first overall selection. Just that one drive remaining. And then, 17 guys set in tier 2. We'll have 3 tier 2 picks. And after that, we'll have our lineup for this first week. That'll be coming up here, I think, before we know it. But we mentioned free agency, and a big part of the free agency period was obviously new faces in new places, all sorts of changing, and 15 of the 40 drivers that are on the grid so far are drivers that have moved teams from where they were in the last season or before that. So just getting a look at it, you've got guys that kind of came out of free agency like Zach and Josh, and technically Godfather. I don't think he actually made the list here, so call it 16 because he didn't drive last season either. But guys were kind of moving all over the place. And as we'll talk later, McLaren was really the only team that didn't have someone new join the roster this season. So interesting to see if it works, just kind of keeping the same formula as they had in season 6. And so without further ado, it's time that we make our first draft pick of the night. Kick won the draft lottery. They did finish, I think they finished last year, last in T1, last somewhere. If Fief was on here, he probably could tell a lot of people better than myself how the draft lottery system worked. I know how the draft lottery worked, but how we got the odds figured out and everything, because I'm pretty sure that Williams was last in the presidents. So I could be wrong. I probably am wrong. It's okay. I'll just stop talking about it so that I can be less wrong than I already am. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get the first selection out of the way. Again, this is for this final Tier 1 seat. That is the second Tier 1 drive at Kick. And with the first overall pick in the Season 7 draft, the Kick F1 team selects Deku. He is the number 1 pick. He had a fantastic showing in the Can-Am preseason showcase, and I think a lot of TPs had him pretty highly on their boards to get grabbed here. And it was just a matter of who had that highest selection. So Deku kind of completes the Tier 1 grid, and if this guy's going to be a second seat somewhere, it kind of tells you how strong the Tier 1 grid is this season. A lot of talent that's going to be flying around here. I know Deku's in the chat. We'll see if we can get him in one of the Discord in for an interview. But welcome to the league, and you're going to be driving for Kick F1, and we also have our second pick. Before we talk through some of the cost cap measures and kind of what it actually means. Williams ends up with the second pick this evening. We're filling our first tier 2 seat. This driver will be driving alongside Zach for us. Had a really, really nice showing as well in that preseason showcase, and kind of made their really made their case as to why they should have been considered with one of these top picks. So with the second overall pick in the Can-Am Season 7 draft, as Dave is in here talking. Dave, you just ruined it. I shouldn't have looked over. With the second pick in the Can-Am Season 7 draft, Williams is proud to select Gabo. Maybe it's Gabo, one of the two. But we're going to bring him in. He's going to complete our Tier 2 lineup and complete our lineup of 4 drivers. So we're really excited. I think there's a little bit of development to be had. But I think we're all really excited here at Williams for what Gabo brings to the team in terms of his pace and his racecraft and his ability to really just kind of drive it hard into the corners and really not let up. It was really impressive to watch. So 2 picks are down, out of the way. I've been told our ad break will start in 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and time this up the best that I can. But 2 picks down, and now I wanted to talk through the cost cap breakdown. So we mentioned the cost cap, I think, to a lot of people who haven't had to sift through or spend time like me and Fief have sifting through the actual number values of what everything costs. It can probably be a little bit daunting. But I'm going to try and explain it. So basically, every team has $165 million to pay for your 4 drivers, your 4 full-time drivers, any DNFs that your team incurs that throughout the season, and any reserve drives. So you kind of have to play the balancing game of how much am I going to go out and pay a driver and how much am I going to save up for anything that might happen, which is it's proved a bit of a unique challenge. I think we've seen, some TPs that have played it a little bit safer. I think some guys have left it a little more risky and close to the line of not having a lot of money left over, which I think is just going to make things really interesting as we get further and further into the season and some of these costs maybe start to rack up where you didn't think they would. A reserve drive costs you $2.5 million per drive, and then it kind of goes up the more that you use the same driver over and over again. So it does kind of force you to keep yourself from using certain reserves as a crutch, I would say. That'll make things a little bit interesting, and then the way the contract system works as well, you'll notice that every driver that was signed to a Tier 1 P-something contract. And that challenges team principals to essentially guess where the driver is going to finish in the championship standings. If you guess it straight on, that's great. If you guessed and they kind of, it would be quote-unquote underperformed, then technically you overpaid for the driver, but I think a lot of us would rather overpay than underpay, because if you sign a driver and he finishes above the position that you sign him in, you get fined, I think it's $5 million per place they finish over the predicted finishing place. So it's a really unique challenge, I think, especially for the first season of us doing it, with the cost cap as a whole. But, I do think that it brings a certain element of guesswork, randomness, and a little bit of luck, I guess, would kind of be involved to try and really nail the cost cap as a team principal. And I think it'll really shake up a decent number of a decent bit of the standings, especially in the President's Trophy. But we did throw together, I threw together a couple of the superlatives for the cost cap. So the biggest contract goes to Flame from Williams. That is because our DNFs cost, I should have said that. DNFs cost $2.5 million per DNF. So, Flame was signed to the max contract because he was up there in the championship last season. And then I gave him 4 DNFs worth of allocation to cover it. So he is a $60 million contract. The smallest contract on the grid is Shifty in T2. His contract is $21.5 million total. The most cap space, obviously, is going to be Kick. They have $97.5 million to play with. That's partially because they haven't drafted or signed 2 of their drivers yet, or I guess 1 of their drivers at this point. But there's going to be some grace there as well with it being 2 draft picks. He gets a little bit of grace with his contracts, which is going to give him, a decent amount of leeway to go through that cap space. Our least amount of cap space, I talked about guys who, really kind of cut it close. Lucid and Mercedes, they are going to be on a shoestring budget. $15 million is all he left in the bank. So you better hope that nothing really goes wrong over there at Mercedes. Otherwise, they could be in a world of hurt with the cost cap. And finally, just one extra bit that I had to throw a half jab. Ryan was covered by Mercedes for $15 million worth of DNFs. That is the most on the grid, I think, by 2 DNFs itself. So, by the way, the season's 18 races, including sprints, and Ryan has 6 DNFs covered. So, ad break coming up. We'll be right back after that with picks number 3 and 4. Alrighty, we're back for, I guess, what you can call the second half-ish, unless we get another ad break in here, courtesy of Twitch. But yeah, we are about set to go here. Just a heads up, I guess, what the second part of this looks like here. We've got picks 3 and 4 coming up next here, and then after that, we've just got the, I guess, what you could call the official season previews, and then right at the end, you won't want to take off too early. Right at the end, we will have the predictions. We had the team principals do a preseason poll, so you'll get to see the predictions and where the grid thinks the grid is going to finish and how it's all going to shake out. So hopefully everyone gets to stick around. We've had a pretty decent crowd of around 20, which I think it's pretty good. I think usually we're around like 10. So yeah. Again, make sure if you do want to get interviewed, you hop in the Can-Am Discord channel, hop into, if you go down to F1 voice chats and hop into lobby 1, 2, or 3, I'll pull you into the interview section and we can go ahead and chat, whether it's our draftees, our team principals, really anybody who wants to, chat. Happy to chat. So, without further ado, we do have another pick that's on the way here. Another name that I'm probably going to say wrong. But Kick does have their second selection. This is to round out their driver lineup for this season. This is a T2 seat. I believe it's T2 seat 2. And the selection here with the third overall pick in the Can-Am Season 7 draft, Kick will select Typins or T-Puns. I'm not sure which of those two, if any of them, is the correct way to go. But that does round out Kick's lineup for the season here with their new TP5s, the only rookie TP on the grid this season. Making some moves here early with the draft. Typins had a fairly good showing in the rookie showcase as well. I think you saw a decent amount of pace there, a decent amount of racecraft. So yeah, I think, again, really, really excited here to see what Kick is going to do. I think it's a pretty fresh lineup, a pretty young lineup in terms of Can-Am. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see what this team does. And then we have our fourth overall selection here. This is the final actual draft pick of the night. I hope the number doesn't go from like 19 to 5 after I announce this. I'm going to be really sad, so don't make me sad. But Red Bull has our final selection here. It is a Tier 2 second seat that's going to be paired up alongside Genier. Going to really round out. It's going to round out all the draft picks, and after this, we will have and again, I'm just checking here. Yeah, it doesn't look like I have anybody in any of the interview tabs, but this Red Bull selection will round out the grid for the 40 drivers that we have. So with the fourth pick in the draft, rounding out the grid, Red Bull will select Capitano. Another guy who drove really well in that preseason showcase. You saw him making some moves in there and showed a fair bit of pace through the qualifying sector, and he is rewarded with that final seat on the grid to round things out. Dave says the draft is rigged. Oh boy. And Genier's in the chat. I don't know if he'll come to the interviews, but he is in the chat. That is his teammate that we just announced. And so we'll get to see what the two of them do in the coming season at Red Bull. Next thing we have here is just our team preview. So now that we've got the grid, let's go ahead and kind of talk things through. It's a team by team rundown. Will not take us too long. But I just want to go through and kind of give everybody an idea, whether you're a full-time driver, a reserve driver, maybe you're the rare like Can-Am fan who just is kind of here to watch. But in any case, we want to kind of give you an idea of what the grid looks like, because it is undoubtedly the best grid that we've ever had since, at least since I've been here. And it might be the best grid we've ever had, period. But I would need one of the OGs to come in here and probably confirm that. But starting off, we do have Mercedes have the Season 6 Drivers' Champion Lucid paired with the Season 6 Tier 2 Drivers' Champion Dismal in Tier 1, and then they bring in Pizza and Ago to drive the Tier 2 Mercedes cars. Lucid, the team principal there, entering his second season as a TP, looking to shake things up here. And really did kind of spend close to the cost cap. I mean, he's, as we said earlier, only $15 million, and these guys don't have super high DNF allocations. So Lucid went out, he spent for drivers that are low DNF rate drivers, and they're going to have to live up to that reputation, because all it takes is one or two mistakes, and then they're going to be in a world of hurt with that cost cap. So it'll be interested. Yeah, they are in generational debt. It's going to be interesting to see how that strategy of kind of spend it to the line pays off for them as the season goes on. Our second team that we've got tonight is Red Bull. I know there's an empty space below Genie right now, but I did make these cards before the draft and before I knew, obviously, who the picks were. So there's going to be some detail maybe missing on some of the second drivers, but that's all right. Godfather returns to the grid. He is the all-time Can-Am Tier 1 fastest lap leader, if that tells you the kind of pace that this guy has got. He was a super fast reserve driver for us in the last couple of seasons. And then you look at Genier, finished P18 in Season 6 and was signed to a T2 P7 deal. If that doesn't show you the kind of pace and improvement that guy's made in the offseason, the team principal, Mel, obviously saw more than enough to say, I'm going to give you the contract and let you go out and do the work. So, again, we are going to we're going to really get a chance to see what that Red Bull team does. Oh, hang on. Can I join the Red Bull chat to interview Jenny? Let's see. Can I just? We're gonna try. Let me try real quick here. Jenny, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? I just had to mute the stream here.
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Let me just check and see. Can you just go ahead and talk for me real quick?
Yeah. Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh boy, you're loud. That's okay. I think it's a me thing.
Am I loud?
No, you're all good. You're all good. All right. Well, you just watched your teammate get drafted. What are your thoughts on the pick and your thoughts on the upcoming season?
Yeah, it's a really good pick. I saw a bit of the showcase, and Capitano did impress. And no, I think we're gonna surprise us here. I know Capitano's skill, and I've certainly improved as well since last season, and that debacle, how I left and everything. But I joined a few Euro leagues since then, and improved a bit. So yeah, I think we're gonna surprise. I don't think we're gonna. I don't know. There's Merc is pretty scary, but we'll challenge. We'll challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's always about challenging, and as you mentioned, the improvement. So Mel gives you the T2 P7 deal. I mean, is that P7? Is that around where you think you're going to finish, or you think you're going to be costing Mel some dollars here, finishing above that?
Yeah, no, I do think I'm gonna contend for some podiums on my stronger tracks, and try to survive. I've really reduced my amount of DNFs and contact and stuff like that, and like overall improve my racecraft. So I think I'm gonna do in the midfield, in the top 10, middling the top 10, hopefully, and maybe punch up there.
Yeah, I mean, best of luck to you. Thanks for hopping in for a quick interview. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Yo, everyone else, get in there. Come on, help them out.
You heard Jen, yeah. You heard the man. It says, get in here and help me out a little bit. And he just showed you it's really not that bad. I'm only going to ask you a few questions. I'm not going to try and make anybody look bad. I think the only slight roast I did was just talk about Ryan's DNF allocation. But I think even he knows, he probably knew that was coming. All in good fun. All in good fun. That was Jenya. He is the number one tier 2 driver at Red Bull. And that is the Red Bull team that's coming to the grid this season. Haas is our next team up, TP'd by the dictator himself, Fief. And he went out and got himself a couple guys that haven't been on the grid full time to drive in Tier 1. Josh, a 6-time Can-Am race winner, I don't think has driven since we had only one tier, if I'm thinking correctly. Certainly was there my rookie season. We had a couple of clashes in there. But he got Josh to come back, and that 6-time race winner is paired up with Parks, who made several T1 reserve drives last year and did show quite a fair bit of pace. So, you can see maybe where that full-time contract comes from. And then in Tier 2, Fief was there last year, finished in the top 10, I think, allegedly. By my memory, he finished in the top 10. And he is joined by Seven, who makes his way over from Aston Martin, and Fief in his second season as a team principal, looking to make some strides from the. I had it and I lost it. Looking to make some strides from the P8 that he was in as a TP last year. I can't talk too much because my team was P10. But he's looking to make some strides, and he will be fighting directly this year with, I still call them V-Carb. It's actually just Racing Bulls. So Racing Bulls, another interesting group. They've waited a long time to hop in on the free agent frenzy and start to sign guys, but they've still put together a really solid driver lineup, despite kind of being a little bit behind the 8 ball when it came to actually getting aggressive with some of these guys. But Ron Aroa returns his second season, podiumed in 25% of his drives as a rookie. That is going to be something he's going to look to continue and do a little bit more. And he'll pair up with Goat, who returns for his 5th Can-Am season, over 450 career points for this guy. Driving all of them, I think, in Tier 1 to this point, and he is the TP going into year number 2. He's told us he is... I'm just reading chat, sorry. I'm told he's eating by him. He's eating. A little too busy to give us his 2 cents on anything at the moment. So... We'll leave him to his food. Hopefully it's good. Goat, if you can at least just throw in the chat what you're eating, just to make us all feel a little bit better about getting snubbed. Like, if I'm getting snubbed for a ham and cheese, we're gonna have problems. But if it's like a decent meal, I can understand. So without further ado from that, let's move to our next team, based out of the Olympic host country this year. That is Alpine. They are TP'd by Icewater. They are TP'd. I'm so sorry, just reading chat. Jesus, Dave. They are TP'd by Icewater. So my brain is just shutting down. Attempting to keep up with what I'm trying to say. TP by Icewater, they bring back Matt, another driver who was off the grid last season, and he is currently 6th in the all-time points category for Tier 1. Wave will be his partner, a late signing by Alpine, but also that's because Wave was a late addition to the free agent pool. He will drive alongside Matt in Tier 1, and... looks like I didn't change the symbol on the bottom of the screen. But that should be for Icewater, who lines up the TP aside Edgar finished P8 in Season 6 in Tier 2, scored 102 points. He's going to look for more of the same, and going to look for more of the same, and then to get some help there from Edgar to help Alpine push up the order in Tier 2. Just going to do another quick check. You know, Gronk, in this context, I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment, I guess. So, moving on from Alpine, and speaking of Gronk, we do have his team coming up next here. It is McLaren. They bring back the only team on the grid. They bring back all 4 drivers from Season 6, so we're really going to get a good look at if it isn't broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, they had a really solid year last year, and if I've got to pull my stat sheet here. If I'm correct, I believe they won the President's Trophy. Yeah, they did, by 81 points over Lucid and Mercedes. So they're going to expect, the second year together, they're going to expect a really strong push from Lucid, who's going to have a really solid team. Went out and got some guys to go after him. So Gronk is the number 1 driver on that Tier 1 team. Drives alongside his, I think now you could probably say long-time teammate at this point. At least 3 or 4 seasons, I think Gronk and Coach have been driving together. That's including this upcoming season. So a lot of chemistry there. They bring back the same team, and Gronk, the all-time Can-Am points leader, sits just 22 points shy of 1,000 career points. That would be will be an incredible milestone to watch. Earlier on in the season, could be race 1 that we get to see that 4-digit threshold get broken. They bring back Ryan and Zuck, or Zook, or Zooch, or however you're supposed to say it. I think I've tried all 3. That is the Tier 2 lineup, and obviously Gronk there is the TP, so we're going to get a really good chance to see how this works out. Does bringing back that same championship lineup get them another one, or does Lucid maybe get them with a strong push, or could it be a third team that no one expects yet to come in and get the job done? Moving on to Gronk's former team, it is Ferrari with Vivoda as the team principal. He will drive alongside Cloud in Tier 1. Cloud entering year number 3, 1 win under the belt. He's looking for more to help Ferrari take that step up and fight for a President's and Tier 1 Constructors Championship. In Tier 2, it is your boy. He is also formerly known as Crescent to some of the guys that have been here for a little while. But he makes his Tier 2 debut. He has 50 Tier 1 starts in Can-Am under his belt already, so he's going to bring the experience there alongside Crescent, and this really is a lineup that does have a lot of race starts and a lot of experience to their name, and I think that's going to pay off some dividends here as we get further and further into the season with Ferrari. Deku, I see you sitting in that voice chat. I saw you in the actual chat, so just let me know when you're ready, and we'll pop you in for an interview here. But until then, we're going to go ahead and talk through Williams. They are the next team on the docket with Flame and Dank. And now we know Gabo is driver number 3, and Zach is rounding out that group of 4 who will drive for the W this season. I am the team principal, the only TP not driving full-time. The only one not driving full-time. Half because my job doesn't always allow for it, and half because I'm slow, and I would be a detriment to my own team. So, working on the second part of that. But we are led by Flame. Obviously, P2 in Season 6 Drivers' Championship has a handful of race wins to his name already. We really just kind of lacked the support piece last season in getting him some extra, Dave, the fact that you're telling me to read the Gen chat on stream is just going to make me less inclined to do that. So, as we said, Flame is going to be there. We signed him to the max contract, kind of showing that confidence in him that he is our guy going forward. And Dank, with some serious pace in the the races that he was in last season, made sense. He did score 43 points as a T2 rookie in Season 6. I don't know if that's the right line for him. Now that I'm looking at it, might not be the right line for Dank, so you can just wipe that number 2 off your screen, and we'll just pretend that it didn't happen and move on to Aston Martin, TP'd by Dave, who has been all over the chat here so far. I don't want to know what fresh hell is being unleashed in Gen Chat, but judging on like the collateral damage over here in the Twitch chat, it's probably not great. Dave is the TP, and he will drive alongside Seth. Seth had 93.5 points in his rookie season in Season 6. Going to look to keep building on that and land another top 10 finish here in the Drivers' Championship. And they are paired up with Adam and Tin Man, a very, very strong T2 lineup. That Aston Martin Tier 2 team is, if you don't look at them and expect them, they're going to catch you off guard, because that is 2 guys that have got some serious pace in Adam and Tin Man. Adam, that pace is actually just kind of demonstrated by him being tied for the most fast laps in T2 history. It's a young history, but it is still history. So we're going to be looking for that T2 duo to really kind of, knock some people in the head who maybe weren't expecting it. And that brings us to our final team on the grid for the previews tonight. That is Kick. They only had 2 drivers that I actually could talk about. We'll get to talk with Deku in just a minute here. Squatch was their lone T1 driver who was signed. He was P9 in his T1 rookie season after having a pretty stellar season here. I think in Tier 2 or as a reserve or something to that effect. Got the call last year to be a rookie and had a pretty solid debut season. And he is paired up now with Deku. We'll talk to Deku in a moment. And it will be Fives and T-Puns. Fives, the first season team principal for this Kick side. So let me just go ahead and hop in here and chat with Deku for a minute. Hey, Deku, you got me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Alrighty. Well, you were the first overall pick tonight, and now you know you're going to be driving a virtual Kick Sauber this season. What are your thoughts on being the top pick in the draft?
I'm happy for it. Wasn't really expecting it. There were some pretty fast guys during the showcase. So that was my first race here. Excited for the future, happy to actually be on a team and not just have to sit in the reserves,
Yeah, so you're paired up with Squatch in Tier 1. So he's a guy that's been around for a season in Tier 1. He's got some experience in Tier 2. What kind of noise do you think the two of you can make this season up at that top flight?
I think we can do pretty good. We can definitely exceed what we did last season for sure. Hoping to at least see the top 4. I think we can do it for sure.
Awesome. And then your TP, as we said, your TP is Fives. Does he give off an aura of someone who's like completely new to team managing, or does he seem like he's kind of got it down already?
No, he came to me pretty professionally, let me know what he wanted to do. He seems like he's going to be good for this upcoming season.
Awesome. And then just give us kind of an insight into you. A lot of the guys on the grid have seen each other drive already. We got to see you in a showcase, but what's the preference? What's the preferred? Do you like a straight line fast track, or are you looking at Monaco and licking your chops like you like the low speed, high downforce tracks? What's your poison here?
You'll definitely see me do better where there's a lot of speed. Austria is going to be a good track for me. When we get to Silverstone, it's gonna slow down a lot for me. It's just not my track. Those bends and everything, and having to do a lot of steering just makes it difficult for me. So yeah, Monaco will be a challenge if I was to have to go there.
I think if anybody in here tells you that Monaco is not a challenge, they're lying to you. That is the second Tier 1 driver for Kick this season. That is Deku, the first overall pick tonight. Deku, thanks for hopping in with us for a few minutes here.
Thank you.
Alrighty, that was Deku, our first overall pick, and now we've gotten to. I have 2 minutes left. I have to make this work. We have gotten right to the end. The last thing we have for you tonight is the prediction poll. So I'm going to tell you up front how this worked. Every team principal was tasked with ranking the other 9 teams on the grid from best to worst. If you were ranked the number 1 team, you earn 9 points, 8, 7, 6. You kind of get the gist of how that works, right? So I'm going to flash the results up here, and this is the team principal preseason poll results. Mercedes were overwhelming favorites to win the President's Trophy this season. They received 8 of the 10 first place votes that you possibly can. It is worth noting that McLaren, it wasn't unanimous, as McLaren did receive 2 first place votes, so a unanimous preseason poll of this style will only see 1 first place vote not go to the winning team. So there was somebody else who did think that McLaren might pull it off and use that lineup to knock off Mercedes and retain that President's Trophy. But as we can kind of see, it is Mercedes and McLaren, and then a pretty tight fight between RB and Ferrari, or Red Bull and Ferrari, I should say, that is expected. And then it kind of steps off as you'd expect with also a pretty decent fight between Alpine, Haas, V-Carb expected there. All of those 3 within 5 points. And then Kick was predicted down there with 13 points, but I think we all know that it'll be a lot closer than that based on what we've seen from their 2 drivers. But I have an ad break in 20 seconds, and I am out of actual content to give you guys. So I'm going to throw the closing screen up there and say thanks so much for tuning in. Keep your eyes peeled to the announcement channel and all sorts of different things in the Discord to keep up with the schedule. But yeah, that's it. The 40 drivers are set, and it is time. Can-Am Season 7 is go. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night, and we will see you when we see you.
You're just not sure. How does she know? You say she's the one, all that's in your head. That you're so in love with your new girlfriend. But you hit me up every now and then. Oh, does she know? Stop calling every time you're down and need something. Oh, maybe you should try to call your new girlfriend. All that's in your head, that you're so in love with your new girlfriend. But you hit me up every now and then. Oh, does she know?
I left the lights in my heart on. If you ever wanted to come home, it's like I'm living in a sad song.